Hello?
Does mine work? What number are you?
One.
One? Okay. Now? Yeah, now.
Oh, hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
No, I don't get, you're not on.
Hello.
Are you?
Hello.
Okay.
Thank you. Is Ralph Claudia coming too? No, she's at rehearsal downstairs. For Slichot. Ah, thank you for being here together with us to create sacred silence together. So tonight, with some guidance from three of our Nishmat Chaim teachers, Reb Moshe, Yocheved Sheila Katz, and me, I'm Bobby Isberg. We come together to create space for our souls to continue on our journey together through the high holiday cycle, from Tisha B'Av to Sukkot, from numbness and denial to awareness, from deadness to rebirth, from regret to self-forgiveness, from feeling alienated to coming home. So each of the three of us will offer a brief reflection and a 10-minute meditation for us to do together. Rabbi Alan Liu of blessed memory has given us a guide for the journey of the soul through the high holiday cycle in his book, This is Real and Unprepared. And Rabbi Liu shares this story, retold with commentary by our teacher Norman Fisher. A certain Rebbe had a close disciple who fell into a long period of staleness which troubled him deeply. He felt as if all meaning had been drained from his life, and when he prayed, his prayers turned to chalk and died in his mouth before he could utter them. The Rebbe, aware of his disciple's problem, and of course this is a problem in every religious tradition, that we come to a place where we've been observant, but for no reason that we can understand, everything is dust. So the Rebbe took him out of the village to a deep, dark forest and said to his student, as you're entering the forest, ask God to give you the answer to your dilemma. And then forget about the prayer, because you have to pay very close attention to the path through the forest. If you don't, you'll get lost and you'll never get out of the forest alive. So the student entered the forest and lost himself in following the path. As his rabbi had instructed him, he devoted all his attention to the path itself. Soon he began to take great pleasure in the path. He took pleasure in the working of his body as it found its own pace on the path. He took pleasure in the fall of his foot on the cool forest floor. He took pleasure in the path itself, a verdant, mossy path of deep, brilliant green. When he finally came out of the forest, he was smiling broadly, and the Rebbe asked, "Did God give you an answer?" And the student started to weep. "I forgot all about the question," he said. "I put all my attention on the path, and after a while, I took so much pleasure in what was in front of my face that I forgot about the question altogether." In that case, the Rebbe said, I would say that God gave you your answer after all. So in this story, we find a perfect set of instructions for our Selichot meditation. The entire month of Elul, we've been asking, what are the ways that I have missed the mark this past year? Who are the people from whom I need to ask forgiveness? What do I need to make amends for? We've asked this question of ourselves, of each other, perhaps of Yud-Hey, Vav-Hey. And now as we enter into our silent sitting practice, we need to drop the question entirely as we pay attention to each step on this path through the forest of our inner experience. So beginning as always by allowing the body to find a relaxed but alert posture, allowing our feet to rest on the floor, feeling our sitting bones hugged to Mother Earth by the force of gravity, allowing the spine to rise with its natural curve, allowing the back of the head to rise upward, letting the eyes be closed or just resting on the floor a few feet ahead of you. Now on this path, we don't have actual footsteps to attend to, but we do have each inhalation and exhalation. With each breath, we allow our awareness to rest in sensation, direct sensation, not analyzing or judging the breath. Just being aware of the texture and rhythm of the breath. Allowing ourselves, as did our young friend, the student, allowing ourselves to take pleasure in the working of the body as it finds its own natural rhythm of breathing. And the breath, our awareness of the breath is there to keep us on the path, no matter what turns up in inner experience. For the breath is we can only experience the breath in the present moment. Guided by breath awareness, we can lose ourselves by letting go of the ideas of what we should be, our preoccupations with what's wrong with us, allowing thoughts and feelings to come and go, returning again to awareness of the breath. Each time we get lost in thoughts and become aware of it, greeting that moment with gentleness, humor, and compassion. Finding our way through the tangles of the forest of our inner experience, guided by each breath that returns us again and again in the continuous cycle of teshuvah, returning to the present moment in this wordless space of compassion, we become able to feel our full aliveness in each moment.
When you hear the sound of the bell, you can continue to be with what hearing is like right now. What is hearing like? And you're welcome to keep your eyes closed or soft focus a little bit ahead of you on the ground. And Bobby and I have been teaching this together for about, almost 20 years, and you'll see that we didn't agree what we were going to speak about. We didn't talk about it, but it's very similar. So my meditation teacher, Rabbi Alan Liu, of blessed memory, left this earth plane too young. And so I can't speak to him in person anymore. So I look forward each year to reading the book that Bobby mentioned that he wrote about the holidays. This is real, and you are completely unprepared. It helps me approach this psycho-spiritual threshold that we are crossing together right now in this powerful season of opening the gates of Rosh Hashanah. In meditation, Alan writes, we come to see ourselves more clearly. We come to see things we will not or cannot see. Meditation helps us to see something else as well. It helps us to experience that we are larger than ourselves. And this is an essential aspect of Rosh Hashanah. Seeing ourselves not just as a discrete ego, but part of a great flow of being. The very first thing the Talmud has to say about Rosh Hashanah is this. On Rosh Hashanah, all the inhabitants of the earth stand before God. And as it says in the 33rd Psalm, God fashions their hearts as one and considers all their actions together. When we sit in meditation with other people, breathing the same air, hearing the same sounds, thinking thoughts in the same rhythms and patterns, we experience our connection to each other in a very immediate way. This connection is not merely an idea. This connection is our heartfelt, visceral reality. Meditation helps us to inhabit ourselves more deeply. And it constantly throws us up against the very things we are trying not to see. But it carries this process of seeing one step further. It helps us to see that we are not merely our individual selves, but part of something much more vast. So I love that paradox that in our meditation practice, in order to experience vastness of being beyond the conditioned ego mind's constructs of a seemingly separate, solid self, we simply pay close attention to the tiniest fleeting details of our experience, of this moment that's part of the vast divine unfolding. We assume that whatever appears in our consciousness wants to be noticed and loved. You may not want it to be there again and again. But that is our invitation to please bring some compassion to the not wanting. And that turns our meditation into cultivating a path of compassion, forgiveness, gratitude. So we greet each moment of body, noticing body sensations, noticing breath, noticing the mind's activity. We greet them with compassion We feel sensations, we hear the thoughts, the emotions, desire, aversion, judgment, doubts, sleepiness, restlessness, a whole parade of human existence right here in this body, in this moment. We welcome this flow with kindness and open-hearted curiosity. What is this moment of aliveness right now? And not answering with stories, but with just checking in to the breathing body. Moment after moment, we welcome this flow with kindness. We see it fade and return, all in the timeless moment of here and now. So right now, can we watch the in-breath forming, arising, and growing into fullness? Can we watch the out-breath slowly disappear into nothing? And out of nothing, watch a new breath arise. And each time the mind wanders from the rhythms of breath and body, we're offered the gift of teshuvah, to return, to be returned, to turn, to return back into loving awareness, back into gratitude for the one of compassion. Can you hear it whisper, return again, return again. Return with salty tears of relief. Return with laughter. Return with a kvetch. Return with wonder and with awe. Shana Tova.
How's that? Better? So we have these 4 letters, Yud He Vav He. And it's not a name. We use names because we want to somehow be able to relate to it as a name. But the minute you put a name on it, you capture it. You hold it in your fist or in your heart, locked away. It's what all people who think they know what God is. You know, a lot of people think they know, and if you don't agree with them, they're upset with you. So have you noticed that? So the 4 letters name, Yud He Vav He, is basically a contraction of Haya, what was, Hoveh, what is, Yeh, what will be, was, is, will be. So if we really wanted to pronounce that name, we'd say was, will be, was, his, will be. And I can only articulate that in breath. In breath. And there's a contraction of that name called Yah. Anachnu nevarech Yah. And that Yah, that breath, gives us a sense of what it is to connect. And if you praise God through breath, you can be praising God at every moment of your life, particularly when you pay attention to that action of taking in and going out, bringing in and going out, connecting with the rhythm of nature, the tides coming in and going out. And each of us does that in their own particular way. A story, a Maisa. Everybody's got a good Maisa. There was a small little town in Poland, sort of a Hasidic town, had a steeple there. And one day the circus was coming by. Now, even in small towns in Poland, that was a big deal because, they didn't have cable. So the circus would send ahead, in order to get the crowd excited about their coming, they would send ahead a tightrope walker. And he ties his rope from one building across to another building, and pretty soon everyone gathers to see this marvelous thing. And the tightrope walker gets up on his ladder, and he carefully crosses over to the other side, accompanied by oohs and ahs from the crowd, with a deep breath that maybe he will fall, and he gets to the other side. And everyone is astonished. Everyone is astonished. And one of the students of the Rebbe, when he saw this, was beginning to take notes. And he wanted to show that he could do it too. So he took a note at this step, he took that step, and this step. And then he said to the crowd, trying to get some of that marvelous attention that the tightrope walker, and he says, I will too cross this rope without any hesitation. And he climbs up the ladder, gets on top, takes 1 step, 2 steps, boom, falls right down. So the Rebbe says, what happened? He says, well, I took notes. He took a step to the left, he took a step to the right. And I did that too. I took a step to the left and a step to the right. And he continued on and I fell down. The Rebbe said, don't you see? Don't you see? This is what people often do. They think that if they act like others around them, that they're going to make it to the other side of that rope. But the real lesson, the lesson of this period, particularly of the Yom Neroyim, of those awesome days, is that we each have to create our own balance. Each of us has to create the steps that we take that gives us a sense of balance. It cannot be taken from instructions. It takes only from your living your life. And balance is what I think every spiritual tradition basically teaches. If you don't want to walk with your life a kilter, and you want to find that central path, you want to find that path that brings you to a place where your own uniqueness is the goal. And then, as my wonderful colleagues have said, but they were sitting in silence, we also realize that my uniqueness is part of a vast contribution that we can make by offering ourselves up. B'levavi mishkan evned is a wonderful song, right? In my heart I'll build a mishkan, a tabernacle. And at the end he says, what will I offer up? He says, I can offer up only one thing. Nafshi hayechidah, my individuality. And I'm willing to offer up my individuality to become part of something far greater than I am. That's a great tension that exists in society between wanting to be individual and not blending in, and the other one saying, no, come in, join us, join us. Be part of the great project. And what's that great project? The great project is bringing the world to an expanded consciousness, that we're all part of everything. Not apart from, but a part of. And it's not easy. That's why we do it again and again and again. And I won't talk too much about tightropes, but many of us live that way on a tightrope, and few of us have the courage to try to find the balance to go across it. We stick to the sides, waiting for others to do it. We have a safety net under that tightrope, don't worry. We have doiras, generations and generations and generations of righteous and beautiful human beings who said, don't worry, you won't fall, we'll lift you up. And that's what Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur is all about. We fall, regrets, and we're lifted up by community, saying, no, there's still possibility. So again, if you sit in a dignified position, feet on the ground, take a deep cleansing breath, and then settle in, listening to the Yud, He, Vav, He in your breath. The way to truly articulate what we sense is the divine within all of us. Just a few announcements. The next program will begin at about 10:30. And we just let you know we have 2 contemplative services planned for the Yamim Noraim. First day of Rosh Hashanah from 9 to 11. We'll be meeting in the community room downstairs. And on Yom Kippur from 9 to 11. We also offer a weekly Sangha, a weekly community that's been meeting now for over 20 years. And we're the Nishmat Chaim, Breath of Life meditation project. And they are 9:30 every Friday morning, if you have the time. And it's a wonderful hour and a half of sitting and of speaking and of getting conversation going. And also during the year, pay attention to our calendar. We'll be offering a number of contemplative Shabbatot as well, services that are a bit different than the traditional services, but keeping many of course, the structure of the traditional service. So I want to thank Bobby, and thank Sheila, and thank all of you, and hope that you will have room for letting the breath of life pass through you and continue to for many years to come. Years of health and years of satisfaction. That's a word I like. Can you be satisfied? Can you feel satisfied? It's not easy for a lot of people to feel satisfied. So I wish you, as I say, health and satisfaction. Nachas von Kinder, everything you need. And thank you again. And at 10:30, we have a wonderful opportunity to hear from Rabbi David Jaffe, who has joined us. Thank you all.
Check one.
I'll have to coordinate. Okay.
I'll take one. So we're going to get started. Oops, let me mute myself on the TV. Just going to, whoop. Okay. So we are thrilled to have with us tonight both Rabbi David Jaffe and Yehuda Webster coming from California, Shavua Tov. And for those of you that don't know, Rabbi David Jaffe is the founder of the Inside Out Wisdom and Action Project, a project to bring Musar and social justice together. And so we are thrilled to welcome you both. Yehuda and Rabbi David have been working on a project, Dismantling Racism from the Inside Out, which utilizes a similar format to the to Iowa. And so we're thrilled to welcome them both to TBZ for our Selichot learning as we enter into this sacred time of our year. So I'm going to turn it over to you both.
Thanks a lot, Rav Tiferet. Hey, Yehuda, Shavua Tov. It's good to be here with a lot of friends, and always great to be back here. Rabbi David Jaffe. And I want to start with a short meditation, and then we'll move into the teaching. This is based on a teaching from a teacher of mine, Rabbi Herzl Hefter, in Israel, that the shofar, if you imagine the shofar and blowing in the shofar, so you have the small end of the shofar, air comes in, comes out with a noise at the other end. So he says that it's really similar to in the beginning of Genesis, where we have God breathing Nishmat Chaim into the human. And so if we compare, the human is a shofar, air is coming in, or breath is coming in, what comes out? So the sound that comes out of the shofar is a sound. And then I'm taking off on this teaching. What comes out from a human that's our life. That's how we show up. That's how we are present in the world with each other. That's our actions. And so what we're doing over the high holidays, and really starting tonight with Slihot, and then through Rosh Hashanah, Seder Tshuva, Yom Kippur, is really building our vessel and working on our vessel, our shofar. And so that Nishmat Chaim from God, as it comes through us, can come out in the clearest, most present, most pure way that it can, through the way we show up for other people, the way we show up for ourselves and the world. So I want to do a very just short, 1 minute meditation right now to start us off. On the in-breath, imagine that Nishmat Chaim coming into your vessel, and you as shofar. And on the out-breath, imagine it coming through you, and then out as the presence you bring to the world. And so just in-breath and relaxed out-breath, just several times for about a minute of that kavanah. One more round of in-breath and out-breath. And may the spiritual avoda, spiritual work, service we do over these coming days and weeks help build our vessel so we can bring the Nishmat Chaim as pure as possible into this world. So Yehuda and I are here tonight. We want to talk with you about Ratzon, Ratzon, which is deep desire and motivation and yearning, and the connection of that to the work of dismantling racism. I know your community has been doing a lot of work, just finished a 9-month, 8-month, really intensive process with Dimensions around this topic. And how are you going to carry it on from here? I know that's a lot of conversation that's happening now. One of my colleagues, Dave Sternberg, talks about there's willingness and there's tactics. And often willingness is more important than tactics. And willingness is really Ratzon, is what is the desire, what is the motivation to do this work of dismantling racism in ourselves and in the community. Because it's not easy work, it's hard work, and it takes really looking at habits of heart and habits of mind and structures we have, and questioning them, and challenging ourselves. And as you know, it takes a willingness and takes a real desire and motivation. And so our program tonight is to tap into that and to really look at what is that motivation we have, and how can we bring that into our prayer, into the high holidays, and strengthen it to then be able to go and take everything you've done over this past year with Yavil and Dimensions and really start making it real in the community. And just one last word about this time of year. This is called Yemei Ratzon, the days of desire, or Elul, the month of Elul. And the desire is our desire to come close to God, to be our best selves, to grow, and God's desire to be with us and to come towards us and be close to us. And so this desire is really a key piece of this month. So with that, I want to turn it over to Yehuda to talk about how we're going to talk both about our own Ratzon and desire and how we came to doing the work we do, and then we're going to see a source together.
Good evening, Shavua Tov. Can folks hear me? Okay. So grateful to be with you all again. Thank you, Rabbi David, for that introduction and that beautiful contemplative practice to frame our work here tonight. For those of you I don't know, my name is Yehuda Webster. I use he, him, his pronouns. I am based in Los Angeles these days on Tongue of the Land, and I'm the program director at Inside Out Wisdom and Action Project. And I come to this work, the work of spiritual integration with social justice, particularly racial justice, from the standpoint and perspective of a community organizer for racial and economic justice. You know, I got involved with community organizing about over a decade ago at this point, feeling the pain of the economic exploitation of racism as a college student, which then sparked the desire in me to do something about it, not just for my sake, but also for the sake of my family, friends, and all those other Black and brown folks facing similar exploitation and degradation. And so that really sparked the desire in me to be a part of building the world where historically and currently under-resourced communities have the institutions and access to resources to thrive, not just survive in the cramped conditions and configurations made available within the systems of oppression that we live in. It sparked a desire in me to transform our communities, to be an effective force for open up access to things like parks and nature and playgrounds, community centers, museums, programs for the young and aging, cares for centers of care, places of nourishment, for health, mental health, physical health, spiritual needs, affordable and spacious housing, quality public education. But as I joined others who've been fighting for this and similar visions and dreams of liberation and systemic change, I really started to feel and come up against my own, our collective limitations, as I experienced, witnessed, was a part of perpetuating the very racist dynamics that we were striving to undo systemically in our communities, in our cities, in this country. And so feeling that pain point, that limitation, my desire grew beyond just the dream of transforming systems, but to also include my own and our collective, our communal transformation. To live in a world and to be part of building communities where we're as committed to our own collective development as much as we are committed to being effective forces of systemic change, where we've integrated our rhetoric and intellectual ideas of how to treat one another so that we can do the hard things of accountability and non-disposability, all for the sake of systemic change, all for the sake of liberation, of racial justice. And so this is what brings me to the work of spiritual integration with Iowa. This is some of my desires that really brings me to the work of racial justice. Excited to get into this program. Thank you.
And we're starting with this because this is what we want you to be doing a little bit later in the program, is that same kind of what brings you to this. For me, I'd say three things. One, I had experiences very young of just deep separation and isolation, and that kind of set in place for me of just feeling like, are people there? Are they not there? Like that kind of was a very early experience for me. And then when I went to elementary school, it was right when desegregation was starting in New York in the early 1970s. And I was in a mostly middle-class white school, and black children from another part of the town were being bused to our school. And there was really no integration. It was, people were in classes, but everyone ate separately, played separately. It was just very, very separate, and that was very clear. And that kind of reinforced this sense of separation that was kind of already there for me, was that there's like more separation that was happening in that situation. And then shortly after that, I really started learning about the Shoah and about slavery. And that all came right about the same time for me, around maybe 8 years old, 9 years old. So a lot of this was happening all right around the same time. And learning about both of those things, that really woke up a strong desire of, or just a sense of, wow, this is really messed up. Like people are really like mistreat each other really badly. This is bad. Like a desire to want to change it. So there was, for me, on top of this kind of a visceral sense of separation and a sense that we needed to overcome that, and that racial division and racism was just reinforcing that. And then on top of that there's all this cruelty that left me with, and I think has really driven a lot of my life since then, is I want to do something about this. Like I want to do something about this for my own like sense of being able to live in the world in a way that is connected. And I want to do this because this terrible mistreatment that's happening of people, both my own as an Ashkenazi Jew, and of people who are black in this country. So that all came about really as a young person, has driven a lot of my passion for working on anti-racism, and is particularly really exciting to be able to bring the spiritual work together with this. So I want to share a source, and we just passed it out. It was the first part of it, from Rabbi Nachman of Breslov about Ratzon, this idea of Ratzon. And so if you take a look, he says, he's basing the source, what he's going to bring, on Psalm 84. Psalm 84 says, "Nechsva gam chalta nafshi lachatzerot Hashem." So I long, I yearn. Nechsefa, kisufim, are yearnings, longings. Chalta is also a type of a yearning. And my soul for the courtyards of Hashem. Libi, upsari, yirananu, el chai. That shout out to joy for the living God. Rabbi Nachman is going to do a interesting Hasidic drasha on that verse. You'll see how he takes it out of the plain meaning to emphasize this idea of Ratzon. So he says that, I'll just read in English. He says, "Now, the soul generates itself Ikar hitavut hanefesh, the soul coming into being through longing and yearning for the blessed Hashem. This happens for everyone according to their level. A person yearns and longs for and desires to reach the level beyond them. Through these longings, the soul is created. As it is written, here comes our psalm, my soul yearns, longs, and pines. That is, that which I long and pine for, the blessed Hashem, from this itself my soul is created. So there's this very creative drasha here where he's taking, it's not that my soul yearns and longs and pines for the courtyards of Hashem, but it's very hyperliteral. My soul yearns and longs. Nichsafa v'gam kalta nafshi. My soul, I long and yearn, and it makes my soul, nafshi. And I just want to go on in Rabbi Nachman. I didn't copy it for you, but just the very next piece, he gives an example of this, which may help you understand the idea a little more. He says that this is what the rabbis say when they talk about Shabbat vayinafash, right? We say that Shabbat vayinafash in our prayers and liturgy, that on Shabbat, God rested, Shabbat vayinafash, and was ensouled, or had soul, rested, renewed. And what does that mean? It says that when Kevan Shabbat, when Shabbat comes, Oy avda nafshi. You say, Oy, I've lost my soul. What does that mean? Shebetchila haShabbat. At the beginning of Shabbat, Rabbi Nachman's writing, shetzarich lekabel nefesh yetera, when the extra soul comes in, right? We have this idea of an additional soul coming in at Shabbat. So at that moment, when Shabbat's beginning and the extra soul is about to come in, we remember the loss of our soul during the week, and that hasn't been there all during the week, and we say, V'yinafash, oy, avda nafshi, I've lost my soul. Umatchilim nitgaye, and you begin to yearn and yearn after the soul that had been lost during the week. And through that yearning itself, that we yearn for the soul, from that the soul is created, comes into us. It's an amazing drasha. It's not that God gives us that soul, it's that our yearning for that soul and our recalling of what was been lost and not there, that itself generates soul. This is a very, very important idea for Rabbi Nachman of noticing what's not there, noticing lack, and out of that, generating something, creating something new coming out of that. And the example of the extra soul we get on Shabbat is his concrete example of that. We wanted to make a jump from that idea to the work of anti-racism. And really, you can apply it to anything, but we wanted to make a jump to being in a world that has such a lack and such a brokenness around racial mistreatment and white supremacy and superiority and the way that our system is set up to reinforce these superiorities and really tap into seeing the brokenness of that and what's possible and what a world might look like where there wasn't that superiority and there wasn't that domination, and we can actually have full connection, full relationship with all people. And from that yearning that might get developed in that, create something and create something new out of that place. And probably what we create new would be whatever we do here around anti-racism work, but really not skip the step of tapping into the yearning for it and the wanting for it. And so we want to look at a couple things. One, where racism distorts our desire and our Ratzon and our wanting, and then how we can tap into a deep desire for racial justice to actually help create something and create something new. I'll stop there for a second to see if there's any ideas, thoughts generated, or questions about this source itself. People are understanding the idea of Ratzon. Yehuda, anything you want to add to that, to the teaching?
That was great. Thank you.
Great. Okay. So with that teaching and that in mind, Yehuda, why don't you go first? If you want to say a little bit about where racism distorts Ratzon.
Absolutely. maybe I will add, one of the things I really do love about the teaching is that it really reflects, I think, the reality that we come to reflect that which we desire. And it's a really beautiful teaching to me because it suggests that the status of our soul is not permanent, that it's not, that there's it inspires hope in me, that there's always an opportunity to change and cultivate new wants through connecting and taking, some of what we think we want and cultivating it as that kind of deep desire. And unfortunately, as we do that, the systems of white supremacy is also at work to distort our wants, aligning our desires with consumption, production, and profit of the benefit of those who are privileged at the expense and harm of the needs of those who are targeted in racist systems. In other words, the distortion of white supremacy that happens through media of all kinds, social media, particularly, I think, these days, but also media, education, our general society, the air that we breathe, distorts our desires to choose consumption and profit, our comfort, over the needs and justice of those targeted by racism. And so if we are complacent in living a life of fulfilling these desires informed by white supremacy, focus again on consumption, profit, production for self, then it clouds us connecting to our deep desire, I think deepest desire, to be connected to others, to do good and be good in the world, or to connect to our desire for racial justice, to undo these systems of dehumanization. I think that for me, the white supremacy and racism, particularly the allure of comfort, of living a life of hustling after my own profits, for my own, comforts and joy, is very tempting and alluring. I find that I constantly have to, even just in the TV that I consume, the habits of involved with Instagram and social media, that I can really live my entire life fulfilling the desires of white supremacy, not in grandiose, but in tiny, tiny ways, and not really fulfill my desires to know my neighbors, to bring community service to those who I know are in need and I interact with day to day. So I think our work, as Rabbi David pointed to, and this teaching from Rabbi Nachman is pointing to, is to bring our attention to what it is that we want, as we're doing here tonight, so that our desires don't just become compromised by the forces of white supremacy and racism.
I'll say for myself, the distortion around superiority is there, and because I live in a liberal society and spend most of my time there, I'll notice that some of the ideas or thoughts or things that I've absorbed, I know they're wrong, and I really shouldn't follow them, and I won't really speak to them very much because of the general society I live in. But they're there, they're there. and they distort my personality, and they distort the way I relate to people. They distort the way I relate to Yehuda. They distort the way, and I wish I didn't have them, but I do. And so the work of anti-racism is developing and really working with those habits of mind to be able to notice them and not have them be, the default, go-to, these feelings of superiority. And so that's the distortion end. There's a lot more to say about that, but I hope you know what I'm talking about. And then on the other end, around what do I want? I would really love to live in a world where we didn't have superiority and domination, and we knew that there was only one superior figure, and that's God. And that's it. And then basically anything of God's creation is equal. And that we really knew that. And that's the way we really lived, and the systems we set up actually acknowledge that. I have a deep desire for that. But I don't think about it that much. So what we're trying to do tonight, and what I really want to bring into Yomim Noraim, is raise that up in my prayer and have that more, and really feel that more with the spirit of generation, of the soul, of something new. And I wanted to point to the Adrienne Marie Brown quote from Pleasure Activism, where she writes that, it's on the first page, "I believe that all organizing is science fiction, that we are shaping the future we long for and have not yet experienced." I think she's very much in conversation with Rabbi Nachman there about that we're creating something through the future we long for. That's the hishtokakut, the desire. But we have to have the desire. We have to really let ourselves feel that desire and clarify that desire. So we want to do an exercise, and I want to invite you into this. You can either do this on your own as a meditation, or my suggestion, I think would be better, is to actually do it with a partner. And this is a what do I want exercise. And if you're trained in community organizing, you may have done this at some point. The exercise is we're going to sit with each other, or again, if you want to do it on your own, you can. And one person is going to ask the other person, what do you want? And because the focus here is around anti-racism, try to think of that in those terms, around dismantling racism. But what do you want? And then for a minute, respond. What do you want? And you can say and talk it out. And then the person asks you again a second time, what do you want? And see, you might say the same exact thing you just said, or you may say something new. Then a third time after a minute, what do you want? And see what new emerges from that. And then switch and have the other person do it. And the idea is to prompt thinking about this wanting and desire around what we're trying to pray for in ending racism. Okay, so if you're willing to do this with someone else, please find another person to do this with, and choose someone to go first. And you're going to need to time yourselves. So have someone just have a watch or a phone and put a minute on there, and you'll go through this 3 times, and then you switch the other person, and they'll go ask them 3 times. And if you want to do this on your own, just go off, and you can go to the corner and do that. What do you want? What do you want? Okay, and let's hear from a few people of what was it like to be asked this, and also what'd you notice? What did you notice about your Ratzon or desire around
You
racism?
have to speak to the mic so people at home can hear you.
Yeah.
So.
We'll take a few comments.
So I noticed that my first answer was that I want to be safe. And that where I went from that is wanting my safety and what's good for me and good for my family to not cause harm to other people, that I want that to be in alignment. But it made me notice actually how unsafe I feel, which is not something I'm always so aware of. That was really the persistent space for me. And also, I just finished reading the book about Squirrel Hill and the response of the community after Tree of Life. And so I've been thinking a lot about the mass shootings and the things that go on in our culture that are not safe.
Yeah, thanks, Alan. Yeah, that's right on with our the curriculum that you and I are working on uses a balance of care framework where we talk about that self-care is very important and focusing on that, but how do we do that not at the expense of care for people targeted by racism and really thinking about both those things at once, like kind of what you're talking about. I want to take other comments. I know there was someone online who wanted to share something. Is that ready, Tiferet, or should we go to someone else? Okay, let's go to someone, if there's someone else. Oh, yeah, Ronnie?
A thought I had was listening to you, David, about superiority. It's in a sense really an equality. I really love the idea of actually getting curious about how each person is superior. You know, each person is in God's image. How are they just like exquisite? And to get interested and be able to live in a world where we look with those eyes to see how each person is unique and superior. Also broken vessels were each of us, but can our eyes be eyes that see in, you know, and get curious to learn about how we're each superior.
Thank you.
And
Yeah. All right, which would be the opposite of how racism will devalue people. So, yeah, or objectify. Great. Any comments from over here on this side? Yeah, you ready? Okay.
Can I speak? Do you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes? Okay. So I guess my first answer was that I really want to get to know people, talk to people who are not white. I want to talk to people who are, you know, Black people in this country who have experiences that are so different than me, where there's so much standing in between me and them, and finding some ways to know one another. That to me has been something that I've wanted to do for so very, very, very long. And yeah, I just really don't know how to go about doing that. But I know that sounds ridiculous since we're just all living here in this country, but the opportunity to really talk directly and without offense, you know, I don't want to be offensive. I don't want to say, hey, what's it like to be Black? You know, like it, I'll tell you what it's like to be white. Why don't we talk about that? Like that seems to be pretty basic. But there doesn't seem to be any place to do that. And so that's really, that was my first desire. Can you hear me? Did you hear me? Okay.
The segregation, as we all know, in this society is real, and what she was just expressing, the desire is we're set up not to be able to have those connections, and it takes a lot of work to be able to do it, to be able to overcome that segregation, and it's heartbreaking. And I think and everyone suffers from it. And so that's part of, we want to build up that desire to then be able to figure out what are the right ways to do this, and then unpatronizing ways to do it, and all kinds of, we have to use lots of smarts to be able to figure out how to do these things well, but really feeling that desire to be able to overcome the barriers of segregation that have been structurally put in place for many, many, many decades and years in this country, keeping us apart from each other. We need to finish soon, so I want to, Yehuda, turn to you on any last thoughts on your own personal Ratzon for this coming year.
Thanks, Rabbi David, and appreciate hearing some of the comments. And I'll just add in here that we didn't look at some of these sources, but one of my learnings on Ratzon is that it really operates, our desires, that this level of desires operates beneath our conscious thinking. And we oftentimes are, that kind of desire is why it gets distorted by white supremacy, because it kind of lives in our subconscious. And that's where implicit racism and implicit bias really exists. And so, my desire, I have a lot of, I think, desires that live in my intellect around being a part of change and community service, and getting to, as I referenced before, knowing my neighbors well, all of them, and being able to be supportive of folks around me, and those who are targeted by anti-Blackness in the country and around the world. And yet, oftentimes, because of my distortions, I'm drawn to, opening my email, even though I just closed it moments before, or checking Facebook just because, even though I just finished checking Instagram. And so my ultimate desire is to take these wants that I have that live in my intellect and to really bring them into the level of desire in the subconscious, and to have the muscle to actually choose to spend my days caring for others concretely. There's a big houseless problem in this city that I live in, Los Angeles. To be able to actually meet those needs of the various people that I walk past every day, instead of hustling on to whatever mundane task that I have set for my goals of, again, comfort, consumption, profit, production. So those are some of my desires of really leveraging the tools of spiritual wisdom to be a much more effective force of change in our communities. Thank you.
I think my desire is I haven't brought it down yet to the kind of practical level, but when I kept asking myself, what do I want? It's really, I want everyone to feel like they belong. And I think that goes for me too. But I want everyone to feel like they belong. I want people to feel like that the public safety systems in our cities and our towns are made for them, and that our schools are made for them, are made for you. Like that, our communities are made for you. And whatever that takes, so I still have to think more how to bring that, but I think it's what can I do to help that, make that happen? But that's what I want. I want everyone to feel like they belong. So to close, I want to ask you, take 20 seconds right now, and think about your own personal kavanah, your own personal intention. What are you yearning for regarding healing from the distortions of racism in the coming year, both on a personal level, but also a communal level? Really, I want to take all the work you did these past 8-9 months with Dimensions and Yavila, and really moving forward this. What's your prayer? What's your desire? What's your yearning for TBZ and for yourself personally around ending racism? So give me 20 seconds, just think of your own personal desire, and then we'll close. So in a moment, we're going to start Selichot, and we're going to start saying Hashem Hashem, O Rachum V'chanun, God, compassionate and merciful, slow to anger, who does good and is truthful, and raises up our wrongdoings. And we're going to say that over and over again. And so I'm thinking about my bracha is that we really like experience this as a world of kirva, a world of connection, a world of closeness, a world where everyone belongs. And we can do that really digging into the deep sense of emet, of truth, of that statement, of truth that every single human being is valuable and belongs here. And racism is a blemish on our humanity, and that we're going to do what we can this year with God's help to be able to clean that blemish to the effect that we can. So it's great to be here with you and to get to kick off the high holidays together. I look forward to praying with you now. Thank you. And thanks, Yehuda, for coming in from LA.
Just want to say thank you to, can you mute that one? Right, thank you to Rabbi David Jaffe and to Yehuda and to everybody for being here. This was wonderful, and we look forward to do more work with Rabbi David Jaffe and Yehuda during the year, continuing our work around racism, anti-racism, and TBZ. We'll take like a couple of minutes just to reset up here. There are handouts there for Slihot. Three separate things, the Slihot booklet and 2 additional pages. People at home will get in a link in a moment the service. So in 2-3 minutes, I hope we'll begin. You can schmooze, check in with each other, people at home. You can also use the chat and connect with each other. Thank you.
I can sing and play at the same time. That's cool. Yeah. It's a technique and a piece I'm working on right now. It's paint. It's like what I'm working on is like I can play and sing. I can't do it. Yeah. Cool. I love to hear that. Let's get that all figured out. All right, well, good to see you.
Welcome, everyone. We ask you to find your places. It is really wonderful. It is it is such a blessing, so wonderful to welcome you for our Slihot service, which is co-sponsored by many communities in Brookline. And just to say, I was thinking earlier today, and actually I was watching it earlier this week, our Slihot service 2 years ago, which was like the first of all our high holidays, only online stuff, where it was like Evan and me and Aviva and Noah here with a camera trying to figure out how we do this whole virtual thing. And thankfully last year we were able to have Slihot in person with you, and this year we get to have it even bigger with you and the people who are joining us at home. One apology is that for the people in person, actually, usually it's the people online that get the more complicated handouts. It's actually this time the people in person. We have 3 different handouts and we go back and forth, and it's a little complicated. And we made a promise blineder that next year we will fix the handout for Slichot. So bear with us. Evan hopefully will announce pages, or if not, I will, and get us so you know where we are. And Rav Tiferet is putting on the chat the handout that actually online it goes actually almost all through it in the right order. And I'm very excited that this year, besides Evan, we're bringing more this idea of a davening team to TBZ. Noah and Aviva, Noah Weinberg, Aviva Herwelber, Amit Segal, and Rafi, and myself will be joining at the leading of this service. So thank you all for being here, and please join us.
Oh Yeah. We are so lucky to be here, to sit in your home. Asher yoshvei betecha, od yehalelucha sela. What else can we do but offer praise for knowing that every year we can come back and start over. That what can we do but offer praise for the capacity, for the ability, for the place to bring everything we've done wrong, to put it down on the table, and to be able to honestly ask, where do we go from here? What can we do but offer praise for being dwellers of a house where we know we will be met with love? Where we know that there is help for those who stumble. Where we know that our bent backs can be made straight again. Somech Adonai l'chol hanoflim v'zokef l'chol hakifufim. Where we know that your hand is open to allow us all to desire again. What can we do but offer praise when you allow us to dream again? Poteach et yadecha umasbi'a lekol chai ratzon. What can we do but offer praise for being close? Teilat Adonai Yedaber pi V'yevarech kol basar Shem kodsho le'olam va'ed V'anachnu levarech Yah Me'ata ve'ad olam Hallelujah.
Page 10 here, page 7 at home.
Yitgadal V'yitgadal Shemei Rabbi Be'alma Divera Kir'uteh V'yamlich Malchuteh V'yatzmach Purkaneh V'yekarev Meshech Mechayechon U'yamechon U'lechayech Lechol Bet Yisrael וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה ברכו לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחה נחמתה דמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן. Let's sit quietly for a minute. The words for the next piyut are on the backside of the extra sheet that had the Alet Chanulenu words on them.
And at home
And
is
they're
on page
words-
11. At home is on page
They're
11.
words that ask a question, which is, what do we do when we stand before you with nothing to show? And we had an opportunity when we held it in our hands and we dropped it. הגוף שלך, אדוני, עשה למען
On page 20 here, page 13 at home.
Great and holy parent, the one who has given birth to the entire universe and who gives birth to us, your children, every flicker of the eye, whose love of creation is with us every moment, and without which nothing would be, for whom we long to see the flow of blessing at every moment.
page 30 here, 15 at home. You'll notice that pages don't follow the regular numbers. You just have to find page 30 somewhere in the packet.
El melech
rise as
yoshev al kiseh rachamim mideg v'chasidut mochel avonot amo ma'avir rishon rishon marve mechila lachatayim Slihot לפולשים, עושה צדקות עם כל בשר ורוח, לא קראתם תגמור. הורית לנו לומר 13 זכור לנו היום ברית 13 כמו שהודעת לנו מקדם כמו שכתוב וירד אדוני בענן ויתייצב עמו שם, ויקרא בשם אדוני, ויעבור אדוני על פניו, וסלחת לעווננו לחטאתנו ונחלתנו. סלח לנו אבינו כי חטאנו וחל לנו מלכנו כי פשענו. כי אתה אדוני טוב וסלח ורב חסד לכל גוריך. And be seated. 32 in the book.
17 at home, 32 here.
אצא עתירתה בעומדם בלילות שעבר רצון כקורבן כליל ועולו תרם ניסיך עושה גדולות לשמוע אל הרינה ואל התפילה אל מלך יושב על כיסא רחמים
Rise, page 30 or 15. 30 here.
מתנהג בחסידות,
21
מוחל עוונות עמו, מעביר ראשון ראשון, מרבה מחילה לחטאים וסליחה לפושעים, עושה צדקות עם כל בשר ורוח, לא קראתם תגמור. אלוהית עלינו לומר 13 זכור לנו היום ברית 13 כמו שהודעת לענב מקדם כמו שכתוב וירד אדוני בענן, ויתייצב עמו שם, ויקרא בשם אדוני, ויעבור אדוני על פניו, ויקרא אדוני אדוני אל רחום וחנון דרך אפיים ורב חסד ואמת נוצר חסד לאלפים נושא עוון ופשע וחטא ונקה וסלחת לעווננו ולחטאתנו ונחלתנו. סלח לנו אבינו כי חטאנו, מחל לנו מלכנו כי פשענו, כי אתה אדוני טוב וסלח ורב חסד לכל קוראיך. Come Healing is on another inserted page.
And it at home is on page 22.
Gather up the brokenness and bring it to me now. The fragrance of those promises you never dared to vow. The splinters that you carry, the yoke you left behind. Come healing of the body, come healing of the mind, and let the heavens hear it, the penitential hymn. Come healing of the Spirit, come healing of the land. Behold the gates of mercy in arbitrary space, and none of us deserving the cruelty or the grace, or solitude of longing, where love has been confined. Come healing of the body, come healing of the mind. Oh, see the darkness yielding that tore the light apart. Come healing of the reason, come healing of the heart. Oh, trouble dust concealing an undivided love. The heart beneath is teaching to the broken heart above. Oh, let the heavens falter, and let the earth proclaim. Come healing of the altar, come healing of the name. Oh, longing of the branches to lift the little bud. Oh, longing of the arteries to purify the blood. And let the heavens hear it, the penitential hymn. Come healing of the Spirit, come healing of the land. Oh, let the heavens hear it, the penitential hymn. Come healing of the Spirit, come healing of the land.
We go back to 13 Midot, page 30 here again, page 21 at home. We rise as you are able.
אל מלך יושב על כיסא רחמים, מתנהג בחסידות, מוכר עוונות עמו, מעביר ראשון ראשון, מרבה מחילה לחטאים, וסליחה לפושעים. עושה צדקות עם כל בשר ורוח, לא קראתם להם גומר, אל הורתנו, לומר 13, זכור לנו היום ברית 13 כמו שהודעת לעניו מקדם כמו שכתוב וירד אדוני בענן וירד אדוני בענן ויתייצב עמו שם ויקרא בשם אדוני ויעבור אדוני על פניו ויקרא אדוני אל רחומך נו ערך אפיים ורב חסד ואמת נוצר חסד לאלפים נושא עוון ופשע וסלחת לעווננו ולחטאתנו ונחלתנו. סלח לנו אבינו כי חטאנו, מחל לנו מלכנו כי פשענו, כי אתה אדוני טוב וסלח, ורב חסד לכל קוראיך. Let's say together on page 36.
Our home is on page 24.
Shema kolenu Adonai Eloheinu chus v'rachem aleinu וקבל ברחמים וברצון את תפילתנו. השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה. חדש ימינו תשליכנו מלפניך ברוח קודשך אל תיקח ממנו אל תשליכנו לעת זקנה ככלות כוחנו אל תעזבנו אל תעזבנו, אדוני אלוהינו, אל תרחק ממנו. עשה עמנו אות לטובה, ויראו שונאינו ויבושו, כי אתה, אדוני, עזרתנו וניחמתנו. אמרנו האזינה, אדוני, בינה הגיגנו. יהיו לרצון אמרי פינו, והגיון ליבנו לפניך, אדוני צורנו וגואלנו. כי לך, אדוני, הוחלנו, אתה תענה, אדוני אלוהינו. תבוא לפניך תפילתנו, ואל תדע מדחינתנו, שאין אנחנו על זה פנים וקשי עורף, לומר לפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו, צדיקים אנחנו ולא חטאנו, אבל אנחנו חטאנו.
You're on page 40 here and 26 at home.
יעצנו רע, כיזבנו, לצנו, מרדנו, ניאצנו, שררנו, אבינו, פשענו, צררנו, קישינו סרנו ממצוותיך וממשפטיך הטובים, ולא שווה לנו. ואתה צדיק על כל הבא עלינו, כי אמת עשית ואנחנו הרשענו. Put in our hearts the will, the desire, the dream, the Ratzon that we learned about, to leave paths that lead nowhere and put us on a quick road to something better. As your prophets have already written, when an evil person leaves their path, or a scheming person lets go of of all of these complicated thoughts and returns to a wholeness of vision to Adonai and has compassion for Adonai. Then, when that person returns to Eloheinu, there's a lot of forgiveness there. Sitting.
We're on page 19, but that's actually the next page after 40. We'll fix it for next year, I promise. Page 28 at home.
Anenu Adonai Anenu, Anenu Eloheinu Anenu, Anenu Avinu, Anenu, Anenu Borenu, Anenu, Anenu Goalenu, Anenu, Anenu Doshenu, Anenu, Anenu Ha'el Ne'eman, Anenu, Anenu Vatik Vechasir, Anenu, Anenu Zach Ve'yashar, Anenu, Anenu Chai Ve'kayam, Anenu, Anenu Tov Metiv, Anenu, Anenu Yodei Yetzer, Anenu, Anenu Kovesh Ke'asir, Anenu, Anenu Lovesh Tzedakot, Anenu, Anenu Melech Malchei Amlachim, Anenu, Anenu Nora V'Nisgah, Anenu, Anenu Solech U'Mochel, Anenu, Anenu Oneh Be'et Ratzon, Anenu, Anenu Podeh U'Matzil, Anenu, Anenu Tzadik, Tzadik U'Matzil, Anenu, Anenu, Karov Lekorav, Anenu, Anenu Rachu V'Chanun, Anenu, Anenu Shomea Lev Yonim, Anenu, Anenu Tomech Temimim, Anenu, Anenu Eloheinu Avotenu, Anenu, Anenu Eloheinu Avraham, Anenu, Anenu Pachad Yitzchak, Anenu, Anenu Abir Yaakov, Anenu, Anenu Ezrat Hashvatim, Anenu, Anenu Misgav Ha'imahot, Anenu, Anenu Kasher Lichos, Anenu, Anenu Rach Litzot, Anenu, Anenu Oneh Be'etzara, Anenu, Anenu Avi Etomim, Anenu, Anenu Dayan Almanot, Anenu, Anenu, יברכך.
It's in the supplement here, page 33 at home.
We finished with these. ויעשה לך שלום, ויעשה לך Mourner's Kaddish. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה,
אמן.
בעלמא דברה כראותה וימליך מלכותה, בחייכון ובימיכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהא שמי רבה מבורך לעולם לעולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפעל ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהא שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו על כל ישראל על כל ביותיו ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו וברחמיו יעשה שלום עלינו, על כל ישראל, על כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו
אמן.
Shkoach, Chazak u'Baruch. Thank you all for being here. Shana Tova. If you're going to help us put the pages back, if you can put back the booklet so it's not a mess, and try to. Thank you. Thank you, everybody at home, for being here on Zoom, on YouTube. Thank you, Rav Tiferet, for being behind the cameras, and everybody that helped to lead and teach. Thank you. Shana Tova.